And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of New Earth Tarot. It's good to be with everybody here once again today. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow as well, too, for an episode of New Earth TV Live. Of course, that is our meditation and healing and Q&A broadcast. And today it's all about the tarot, higher self-communication, or possibly even Adronis, if the question calls for it. So, thank you again, everybody, for being here. We're going to go ahead and start off firstly with some announcements.
The world's first spiritual rejuvenation technology in the form of modern everyday items has arrived through AetherX. AetherX offers transcendental healing products that work to detoxify, replenish, and restore you on a physical, emotional, and mental level. The Aether Bed Kit takes the form of a powerful rejuvenation technology that utilizes your own life force energy to restore organs, glands, bodily systems, the energy system, and replenish emotional and mental well-being. The AetherX card decks, the healing code cards, eliminate and detoxify physical, emotional, and mental conflicts within the body. 44 beautifully designed geometrical cards specifically designed to work on the major areas of the body, encouraging natural recovery and increased vitality. The Healing Code cards come in 3 different themes: the body, mind, and energy decks, each with their own specific design to renew and rejuvenate the body. AetherX apparel and accessories that offer comfortable attire and beautiful geometrical and image designs to detoxify, strengthen, and rejuvenate the body. Download our collection of free sample images and cards from our website so that you can witness the benefits of AetherX spiritual technology for yourself. Visit our website now at AetherX.co and begin your rejuvenation journey with us.
And of course, private sessions and distance healing requests and 3-question private email sessions are available on newearthteachings.com. So again, tarot readings, higher self-communication, and communication with Adronis is also possible through the private sessions. And of course, I am doing distance healings by donations, and 3-question by email is also done by tarot reading and higher self-communication, but Adronis is just available through private sessions. So if you are interested, feel free to check that out at newearthteachings.com. And this Sunday, we have the next free event with Adronis. Transmissions from Adronis this Sunday, March 19th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. You can find the Zoom registration link in the video description. It is a free webinar, okay? And anyone who is on the Zoom call will be able to ask questions to Adronis. The last one we had was really profound, shared a lot of great information with that previous transmission. So again, we have our next one coming up this Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific. It is going to be broadcast live here on YouTube, but again, you can only ask questions if you are on the Zoom call. So make sure that you are checking out the Zoom registration link in the video description, and you can sign up for free. And everything on this YouTube channel on New Earth Teachings is backed up onto Odyssey. You can check out the link in the video description, odyssey.com/@newearthteachings. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's broadcast. Let me just go ahead and switch over to live chat. There we go. And hello, everybody. Welcome. Hope you are all doing well today. And I'm just going to go ahead and get out the tarot. And we're going to start off with some questions. So again, if you guys do have a priority question, you can use the donation through the YouTube Super Chat, and that can put your question first in line. Otherwise, I'm just going to be going through the chat and finding questions as they come. So starting off firstly with Samar. Samar here has a question about, hey Brad, can we do a reading for the state of Punjab, India? Thank you. All right, we will take a look at that right now and see what comes through. So basically we can say Punjab, India, and what is the current state or situation with Punjab, India. I guess you could say just an idea of how people are doing, how the state of Punjab is doing altogether. So basically the momentum forward, we could say. Okay, well, they are definitely going through a cleanup right now. Okay. Uh, very much like many other countries that I've been seeing all across the world, right? So right now, this is representing the state of Punjab, okay? So it looks like they're going through a rejuvenation, a cleanup cycle, right? So there's rejuvenation taking place, there's new transformation taking place, there's the idea that things that have been hidden are going to be revealed here very, very soon. Relating to the Four of Swords, 4 also represents the nature of balance, okay? So it's a balancing of conflict. Swords can often represent the idea of conflicting situations, okay? So we're seeing the idea of conflict starting to stabilize because there has been quite a lot, not just through Punjab, but also just throughout the entirety of India. The situation is that cleanup is happening and things are looking good, okay? Now, I know when people turn on the news, they turn on MSM, they look in their newspapers, they look on the internet, they may feel like things are not good, but in a way they are actually quite good because there's a cleanup happening. There's a cleanup taking place, okay? There is, again, we could say, counterforce activity that's happening in the past. They're gearing up. This is the past, right? So them gearing up, they're getting ready, they're moving into preparation to really start cleaning out the debris, clearing out the criminal cartel within the areas of India, specifically in Punjab, right? And this represents the controllers, right? This represents the cabal, you could say. And right now that they are basically being exposed, they are being cleaned up, sanitized in that way. And we're going to be seeing new rich rewards coming. We're going to see, again, new changes. We're probably going to see some financial changes, political changes coming together here in the very near future for Punjab, okay? So Punjab is certainly going through a great transformation taking place right now, right? New authority is coming together, but there needs to be some additional cleanup, right? The entire political arena needs to be cleaned up. The governmental arena needs to be cleaned up. The financial arena needs to be cleaned up. All of that is in the process of being cleaned up. An additional one is, there's a feeling of it just, everything's just going to be walked away from, okay? So you're going to be moving into higher ground. There's going to be a lot of dropping of everything that represented the old guard, the way of how things once were. All of that is going to be walked away from. So again, as we're looking at the idea of 9, this is representing some gruesome endings to a very corrupt authority, okay? And we're seeing, again, the idea of this all just being dropped. It's karmic, okay? So we're looking at some old karmic debt and just learning to walk away from a lot of the old karmic debt. So these here also represent minor arcana, right? So there's going to be some big changes, and everything here is changeable. But this is really how it's looking right now, is we're seeing the fall of the old and the rise of the new pertaining to Punjab. So they're going through some big shifts as they need to right now, even if things look bleak. Like I said, the month of March certainly represents that. We've been seeing the Ides of March taking place here. But it looks like things are going to be getting a lot better for Punjab, and I'd say for India altogether in general, okay? They're going through a major cleanup, just like I've been talking about for the past several months. And it looks like there's going to be some new leadership, new transformations, new governmental transformations taking place as well too, financial changes. So everything is really just there's going to be answers coming, right? Answers are going to be coming because we've been in the dark quite a bit for quite some time about what's really going on behind the scenes. And this is the great thing about 2023. It's because it feels like a grace year. There's going to be a lot of answers coming from a lot of things that have been kept in chaos. Okay, so Samar, that is what I have for your question regarding Punjab. Okay, thank you for your question. All right, so I got a donation here from Ian Spinks. So Ian Spinks, I should say. Ian, thank you very much. Just a reminder, guys, if you do have a question, please make sure you're including it with your donation. Otherwise, I have to kind of try and find out if you had a question associated with that donation. So just remember, if you do have donations, please put your question in with your donation. It just helps me a lot more. Okay? I think Ian does. This is okay. Yeah, so Ian just put this down below. Ian says, "Hi Brad, can you find out what's really happening in the United Kingdom? It seems it's going down the toilet." Well, I have talked about this quite a bit in the past. It's that the old is going down the toilet. So you're right, something is going down the toilet, but it's the old cabal, okay? I know that I was doing another reading, so I will get to a reading here in just a moment. I was doing another reading as well, too, about migration, right? They're thinking that there are looking to migrate some people to Africa, right? I think it was Rwanda, I believe it was. And that there was something else behind that, okay? So really this is just, it's something that is mentioned in front of the scenes, but behind the scenes it's something completely different, because I didn't see anything like that happening in regards to immigrants moving to Rwanda or anything of that nature, okay? This is something else, and it's a cover, okay? So like I said, I know we hear a lot of these things, but what's actually being said and what's actually being done is always two different things, okay? So Ian, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at what is happening in the UK. So it's kind of just like the same question as Punjab. What is the status in regards to the United Kingdom right now? The momentum ahead for it, okay? And we can take a look at that. And I am looking to bring Janine again on here in early April, okay? So I'm just going to be contacting her. She's been ultra super duper busy, so I'm going to see if I can be talking to Janine this week and see if I can bring her on for early April. And we're going to do another special interview together, see if she's available. Okay, so hold on your hats with that. I'll see if I can bring her back on when April comes around. Okay, so again, we're going to take a look at the UK, its current state, its status. So looking at the United Kingdom, its situation. Yep, they're just getting the devil out of their domain. That's the best way I can put it. There's still some influence surrounding the old cabal, the old guard, and it's still just it's a flushing out time. It's like giving the United Kingdom an enema right now, okay? They are actually moving into a very positive direction, okay? So this is the United Kingdom right here. This card represents that, so there's the star. So they're getting help. They're getting assistance, right? So we may have some intervention coming in here, right? So I think there's other alliances that are coming together, helping to clean the UK up, because where the UK leads, a lot of the world follows. So there's a lot of assistance. This could also represent off-world assistance as well too. So we could be looking at off-worlders also helping out a lot of the infrastructure pertaining to the United Kingdom to help clean it up. And it's a purging. It's exactly what's happening right now. It is a purging away of the old. It's a purging away, it's a walking away, it's a moving away, it's a transitioning state relating to the UK right now. So if a lot of things are happening in the UK, so there's just a lot of these enforcements that they're trying to do, well, that's again kind of like the last desperate grasp that a lot of the riffraff that are still in the UK are trying to do, but they're being denied. Remember that cosmic denial stamp I keep talking about? It's basically what's happening. In the past, this again is something that was kept under the devil's shackle, okay? And basically the UK was very much under the devil's shackle and has been for a very long time. And now we're starting to see victory here in the present. This is the present moment card, okay? So we have the devil here in the past, representing the idea of the old cabal, but it looks like they're being flushed out. They're being flushed out majorly, and there's a transitional narrative taking place for the United Kingdom right now, okay? A transitional narrative, and they're getting ready, and they're about to move into something much bigger. Okay, there's going to be clarity. It's a very similar to like what I'm seeing here with Punjab. Okay, there's going to be some clarity coming in. There's going to be some explanations coming in. There's going to be some accountability kept in. Everything feels like the puzzle pieces are now going to start connecting together. We're going to start seeing that, especially as we get into April, May, June. Okay, there's going to be a lot of answers. A lot of things are going direct right now. There's still going to be challenges, but there's going to be some answers coming together. So right now, I know people are kind of battening down the hatches, okay? But justice is being served, okay? So we are seeing a great number of answers. We're seeing a lot of change taking place, particularly within the United Kingdom, about a lot of these old things being flushed out. But like I said, whenever you're seeing immigration, thinking that they're going to send people to Rwanda, no, that's more of a cover story than anything else. And that's not what's taking place. I was not seeing anything like that coming to pass, okay? So again, with the United Kingdom, a lot of just flushing out the old toxicity of cabal presence within the United Kingdom, flushing them out completely. Like I said, this is what we're seeing with the situation right now, right? So we're basically seeing the idea of them being flushed out, right? Being taken out of the picture, losing their authority, being cast out in that way. And it's an ongoing process, but as it happens, as we move forward into the near future, we're seeing the chariot here. So we're seeing the idea of preparation, of moving into something bigger. So the chariot comes in, doesn't mean we're moving yet. It just means we're just getting everything in. It's kind of like if you're getting in your car, right? You're turning on the engine, but you're not going anywhere yet. You're ready to go, right? You got your driving gloves on, you got the heat on, right? You got your music playing. You're ready to basically take out the parking brake, put it into drive, but you're not driving yet. Well, this is basically what's happening with the chariot, is we're about to move into something really, really good, but we're just getting into the preparation of that right now. So it's showing that something very large, very positive, very powerful is about to happen as we start moving into late spring, early summertime for the United Kingdom. Okay? So thank you very much, Ian, for your question with the UK. We will move on to some other questions. Let's see what we got here. Okay, this one here is from Liliana. Liliana says, "Hi Brad, can you give us some insights about the banks collapsing in California? What would happen to people who have money, investing, saving, etc., or any kind of bank account? Thanks." Okay. So basically, if you're noticing that banks are collapsing, the advice I've given in the past is just saying that it's good to take your funds out of the major banks. It's not to say that the major banks are collapsing. Okay, that wouldn't really be the appropriate term, because I've done readings on this many times. Okay, and we're just starting to see a lot of these things that I've been saying is going to happen. Right, we're seeing overhauls of the old banks moving into new banks. Okay, so the major banking corporations are not going to fall. They're going to be overhauled. They're going to be shifted. They're going to be aligned into the new financial system that is to come. We commonly refer to that as the quantum financial system altogether. Now, we will do a reading on this. But basically, in that sense, the collapse of the old, it's basically the claws of the old are basically being swatted away from these banking cartels, and that the banking cartels are going to be taken over, and they're going to be overhauled into something new. Are you going to lose your money? No. Okay. I'm saying this, guys, because for years, even when I was channeling Adronis as well too, for years I've had people come to me, dozens and dozens of sessions, and saying, "Well, Brad, all these banks are about to go belly up. Am I going to lose my money?" No. No, you're not going to lose your money at all. Because what's happening is that these banks are not collapsing. They're basically being rebuilt. They're being re-infrastructured. They're being overhauled into something new. So it's kind of like, as you see corporations, this is what a lot of certain people, certain experts online will say. "Oh, this corporation is going to collapse, and it's going to fall apart, and it will be no more." That's incorrect. Okay? Corporations are not collapsing. They are being overhauled. Okay? They're being renewed. They are aligning themselves into a different orientation. And that's what's happening to the banks. Okay? Banks are not collapsing. Their old rule pertaining to the cabal putting their claw on it is collapsing, but not the infrastructure, the institution itself. Institution is being reworked, it's being overhauled. There's no point in needing to destroy and basically detonate the nature of the bank itself. The bank is just going to go under new management, it's going to go under new administration, it's going to go through transitioning. I've been saying this for years, and now we're seeing it. Okay? So I've been saying this probably going back to like 2015, 2016, right? That banks are basically just going to be overhauled. Things are going to be renewed. Their infrastructure is not going to collapse. They're just going to be reworked. And that's all that's happening. Your funds are not going to be affected. You will still have your funds there. But usually what I suggest is say just go into some local banking. Go to some local banks, right? Go to some credit unions. Okay? That might be a good idea. But let's take a look at that and ask the question to the cards. With California regarding their banks, are their banks actually collapsing, or are we seeing them moving much more into an overhaul state? Okay. Let's see what the cards say. Okay, pretty much a complete and total confirmation of what I was just saying. Okay. So California is going through a rough time right now because they have also had a lot of influence pertaining to the elitists, pertaining to cabal, right? So they've been kind of trudging along, but things are going to be getting better, okay? Relating to the banks, all that's happening is they're being renewed. They're being overhauled, okay? There's no card of destruction here. There's no card of negativity here about them being bulldozed, about them being demolished, or anything of that nature. They're being completely and totally re-infrastructured, okay? That's what's happening right now. So in the past, we're seeing the idea that we're starting to move away from a lot of these cabal-controlled banks, these Babylonian magic money systems, okay, to which these banks are functioning as these power nodes for that. We're starting to see us get away from that. We're seeing something being completely reworked here. We're seeing a new birth. We're seeing a new transformation taking place here. The banks are being re-infrastructured. Now, they are not mentioning this publicly, but in the times ahead, they may start to, okay? We may start to see, again, a lot of new transitions of announcements coming together. Whether it's on the MSN, I don't know, but there's going to be some announcements of this. We are moving into a very good path, okay, pertaining to the banking system. The banking system is not dying away, okay? So when experts are telling you that, that's where you have to kind of look at it with a raised eyebrow, okay? They're not dying out. They're just being reworked. They are being re-infrastructured. They are being overhauled, okay? And this is, again, is representing the idea of new actions taking place, new beginnings, new actions, a new orientation relating to the banks, representing a complement to the new financial system that's coming together. The whistle has been blown, okay? We've gotten the whistle blown. We've gotten the summoning. There's a new change taking place, and it's going to move into a lot more greater security for people. You are not going to lose your finances. You are not going to lose your funds. You are not going to lose your homes. You're not going to lose anything that relates to these banks. They are basically going to start getting completely changed quietly into the night, where you won't even know what's happening. And then they start to reopen themselves, and maybe there's new policies coming together, and they're now moving much more into the compatibility of a new infrastructure pertaining to a new financial system or systems. Okay? That's what's taking place in California. Not just California, pretty much the United States, pretty much Canada, pretty much the UK, pretty much Australia, pretty much all of these big countries. Okay? The same thing is happening with them. Okay? Their banks are being overhauled. Not destroyed, not collapsing, overhauled. Okay? The collapse is of the old cabal no longer being able to have that grip. Their grip, the devil's grip, is being taken away. That's what's taking place right now. Okay? So it's a very good, very positive thing. And I'm just telling you guys what I'm getting from the cards. And it's looking really, really good. So a lot of great things to come here. Thank you, Lilia, for your question. Okay, so Ding Dong here is asking the question, hello, Brad. Everyone is talking about the economy crashing. Is there anything you think we should do? Okay, so this is just going back to what I just said. The economy is, when we look at the idea of the economy in that sense, it's nothing but an engineered thing. It's all man-made stuff, guys. The economy has no intelligence of its own. Okay, it's nothing but a tool. So basically in that sense, like I said, we're watching everything that represents the grasp of the old cabal collapsing. Okay, that's what's collapsing. And everything that they've held on to collapses together with them. But as there's a collapse, there's a rising up. Okay, so yes, it may look like that the markets will start to crash, or it may look like in that sense that things are going down. But that needs to happen in order for them to basically release their grip on a lot of things pertaining to the stock market. Okay. Now, I'm not a financial guru. I know a lot of people ask me financial questions like, guys, that's not who I am. I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a financial consultant. I'm not a financial guru. All I'm basically telling you is the events of things, okay? So the events of things is in that sense that, yes, there will be a particular appearance as if things are starting to move into a recession, okay? So, yes, it looks like that on the surface, that there's a recession coming, that the idea it'll be hard times, quote unquote, but that's only a temporary transition into moving into something better. People have always been predicting doom and gloom relating to the stock market or financial shifts that have been taking place upon the planet, and so many people value their money. I get it, okay? And they're worried about that. And yes, like I said, this needs to play a part so that, again, everything in regards to the way that money was, the Babylonian magic money system, needs to completely collapse. Okay, so the only thing that's collapsing is the old way that we have been working with money. Okay, that's on the way out. And then there's going to be a new way of how we work together with money, and that's going to basically reboot everything. But it's basically happening in between. It's like two gears that are basically just starting to rub up against each other. Okay, it's not to say that one thing is going to completely stop and you have to wait a bit of time before something else starts. It doesn't work that way. Everything works together in a harmonious transition with itself. As humanity values their financial currency upon the planet, we're seeing the idea that something needs to slow down so that something else can build up. This is equivalent exchange. Okay? The old needs to fall away. And since we've been depending upon that for quite some time, this is where people are panicking. They're panicking because they're holding on to a Babylonian magic money system. And that's nothing but debt. That's nothing but taxes. That's nothing but a bunch of people basically creating legalized theft. Right? And that needs to fade away so that something new can come together. So the old is dying out, the rising of the new is taking its place. But it's all happening simultaneously. Okay? So it's not to the point where you're going to be completely stranded and you won't have any money. Okay? Guys, we have to remember that pretty much the money in banks nowadays are just numbers on a screen. They don't even have the legal tender to really back up. Let's say, for example, if you have $1 million in your bank account, right? Maybe you run a successful business or something, and you want to take all that money out, that bank is going to have a long time to try and get all of that money in cash for you. It's going to take a long time, okay? Because they don't have it, right? So it's nothing but a bunch of zeros on a screen. That's the nature of the banking system right now. They don't even really have the legal, physical tender for the money that's basically all these ones and zeros on the screen, right? There's nothing there. So this is why it takes such a long time. So, okay, well, you got to get physical cash. Well, it's going to take a bit of time, right? Okay, 8 to 12 weeks, and we'll get it ready for you. 8 to 12 weeks. Don't you guys have the money in the bank right now? No, of course not. We just got zeros on a screen. That's all we got. Okay, so this is why, in that sense, a lot of this is fading out, because it's nothing but fiat. It's nothing but imaginary money. It's nothing but a bunch of fake zeros on a digital screen. Okay. And so this is where things need to change, that there needs to actually be some backing here. There needs to be some physicality relating to legal tender, and I feel like we're moving in that direction. Okay, so, but right now, yes, it's going to appear like there's recessions. It's going to appear like there's a very, very strong depression coming together in that way. It needs to look that way, so that, again, we see the complete and total falling away of the old fiat, magic money, Babylonian system, and rising up of something new, something that actually has a little bit more practicality to it. Okay, so that's really where I see us going. It's going to take some time, but it's taking place. All right, and I feel we're going to have to see the fruits of that this year as we move into the later part of the year. Okay, this is what I've been getting for quite some time. All right, thank you, Ding Dong, for your question. Okay, Doug here, thank you for your donation. Says, are the Russian people generally intuitive, and this why the cabal hates them? No. Well, Doug, I would have to say that your question isn't really justifying the idea of a correctness, okay? It's nothing to do with the Russian people being generally intuitive, okay? It's not so much in the idea of the Russian people. It's more so in the idea of the Russian governance, okay? The presence of Russia. Do you guys know what Russia means? Do you know what the word Russia means? Okay? I'll give you guys a hint. It has something to do with light. Okay? So you could almost look at it as a country of light, or a place of light, a domain of light, people of light. Okay? Russia, in all due respect, my friends, okay? Russia has been holding the anchor of the light on the planet for many thousands of years. It's an illuminated presence. Okay? I'm not talking about the political infrastructure and all that stuff. It's more so the governance, the presence of Russia. Russia has been kind of like the white knight of the world. And they have been for a very long time, for many thousands of years. Why do you think we're never really able to look at the ancient nature of Russia? When we're looking at the Tartarian civilization, for example. When we're looking at a lot of the ancient Vedic Russian. Okay? These people, basically looking at the land itself and the ancient ancestors that came upon the land of Russia, were basically like the light of the world. because they have a very, very rich spiritual heritage. Okay, and it's still preserved even in the interior depths of Russia, because basically Russia was trying to be made into a perverted country with the idea of Soviet nature and communism and all of that. But that's not the true Russia. Okay, Russia has always been the light. Okay, and that is really what represents Russia, because Russia's major enemy has been the cabal. Do you guys remember? Because I'm not sure if many of you do. Okay, because I did this quite a while ago, and I'm sure the regulars who have been tuning into me every single week are remembering this. Do you guys remember what I was talking about with Khazaria? What is the Ukraine, guys? Before it was called Ukraine, what was it called? It was called Khazaria. And there's a Khazarian mafia. Okay? And Khazaria was a country that was completely filled with criminals. They would ambush people that came to visit their country. They would rob people. They would murder people. Other people who would try to bring trade to that country would be victimized, would be hurt, would be killed, because there was nothing basically but a bunch of psychopaths, right? And basically Russia and other surrounding countries have had enough of what Khazaria was doing, because they were nothing just but a bunch of filthy, dreaded, horrible Satanists. Okay, that's what the Ukraine was, right? Russia went in with other alliances and cleaned it out. They said, we've had enough. We've had enough of these people just being murdering psychopaths, killing thousands and thousands of people that are trying to come through their country. And a lot of other countries are complaining and said, we're going to take charge here. This happened over 600 years ago. And since that time, Khazaria basically became demolished. And you had the riffraff of them moving off into the west, quite commonly around the area of the United Kingdom. Okay? And you also had a lot of the riffraff that would leave the United Kingdom and they would go over to North America, and they basically committed genocide on the indigenous. That's all Khazarian roots, my friends, not Russia. Okay? So, out of vengeance, they would always have a bitter pill to swallow when it came to Russians, because Russia destroyed Khazaria. Okay? They destroyed the Satanists, and the riffraff remained so that they could build up their empire over the centuries in different territories. And basically, they have always tried to make Russia number one, because Russia was the one that bitch slapped them. Just like that. Okay? And they have had it out for Russia for a very, very long time, creating the Cold War, bashing Russia any particular way that they can, making the idea of feeling that Russia is the most evil country in the world, when Khazaria was. Okay? That's the entire reason why a lot of the cabal has always tried to completely and totally slander and ridicule and fight and want to go to war with Russia, because they want revenge. Russia completely obliterated them. And that's why they've been fighting in that way. So you can basically look at the idea of everything that represented the essence of Khazaria was the poison. Okay? They were basically, you could say, quote unquote, the true terrorists of the world. But they blame it on everybody else. That's the Satanist agenda. Right? We're not doing anything. We're completely innocent. Right? They would go into the true narcissism. Somebody else's fault. We'll gaslight all these other countries, because we need to bring justice. We need to bring democracy to all these different countries. That's all Khazarian rule. It's all Khazarian, guys. Okay? That's the cancer of the planet. Everything that is represented, what is now the Ukraine, formerly Khazaria, has been the cancer of the entire planet. And Russia was the big one, the big guy that came in and said, no, we've had enough of this. So it's not just us complaining about it. Our friends in our countries around us are complaining about this too. And it's time we took action, and they completely dissolved Khazaria. And basically the land of Khazaria belonged to Russia, because Russia was able to take ownership of it. This is why there's been the idea of the Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine was never its own land. Ukraine has always belonged to Russia. Always. It's their own land. Right? So that's basically what's happened here. So to answer your question about the idea, are they because they're intuitive people? Well, they're very spiritual. There's a spiritual presence. There's a spiritual past. There's an ancient nature to Russia that represents the light of the world, that represents the illuminated country. It all represents light. This is why so much of Russia has been hidden from the rest of the world, because there is great spiritual secrets within Russia. They've been given a lot of, you could say, divine order, right? They're kind of like the white knight. And that's really what Russia represents. This is what I've received, both through intuition and research. Okay? The Khazarians have always had it out for Russia, because it was Russia that destroyed Khazaria. And that's why they're bitter, and that's why they made Russia public enemy #1 in their eyes, slander them at any chance, tell them that they're horrible, that they're psychopaths, and they're basically just explaining themselves. This is what you call gaslighting 101. They have done nothing but gaslight Russia since day one, ever since Russia destroyed them. Okay? And Russia's basically destroying them again, right? Bitch slapping them again, right? Taking them down to the point where we say, we're never going to let you guys rise again. We should have finished you off 600 years ago. And some of you escaped. So we're going to finish you off this time. And not a single one of you Khazarian psychopaths are going to remain. And that's what Russia's doing. And Russia's really leading the charge of this alliance that's coming together. Like I said, the counter forces really is everybody. But really, when we're looking at the head of a lot of these alliances, Russia's the one that's playing the game. They're the ones that's leading the charge. It really is Russia. Okay? A lot of off-worlders are talking to Russians. They're talking to the Russian leaders, but not the ones that you see on TV, the ones behind the scenes. Okay? A lot of them have the off-world assistance that's working together. Edgar Cayce once said that the hope of the world lies with Russia. Okay? I want you guys to think about that. Not just taking my word for granted here, but you're looking into your own research and you're feeling this for yourself. That's what Russia represents. They represent the white knight of the world. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, moving down the list here a bit more. I think I took care of the donation so far. Okay, I think we'll move on to Eve's question here. She says, greetings, Brad and Adronis. Do you have any updates to share on the event that is supposed to happen at the end of the span of chains? What's the likelihood in this happening this year? Okay, so why don't I bring Adronis in for answering this question about the event. I mean, I haven't talked about that in a while, about the nature of the event. There was a point, I think it was in the early 2020s, or maybe late 2010s, where a lot of people were talking about the event, right? And that Adronis has talked about a span of change, which is basically coming up around the end of 2024, and we then move in from 2025 to 2036, which represents a span of renewal. And then we move into 2037, 2038, which represents that span of a new age, the end of prophecy, right, and moving into a new era. Okay. So for those of you who don't know what the span of change is, that date was 2016 to 2024, from what Adronis was sharing. And then there's an event that's coming together that's around the time of 2024, 2025, which brings us into a new state of renewal. Okay. But we're still going through some changes as we go through the late 2020s. But I'll bring Adronis in, and he can share some insight in regards to this. Okay? So I'll just be one moment as I bring him in now. Okay, here we go. Terra Soul Star Sirius Adronis. We are here. At this time, we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. We thank you for the question pertaining to the nature of the span of change and representing to what you would commonly loosely term as the event. Yes, quite frankly, we have talked about this throughout your past. And that when you're looking at the nature of what is termed as an event, it is the combination of many events that represents a state of climax. And that particular state of climax is a life-changing event. Let us give you an example of past events that you have had. One example is what you would term as 9/11. 9/11 was a culminating event. The debut of the coronavirus and COVID-19 is the example of an event. And now there is another event looking to take place, another earth-shattering announcement. And that earth-shattering announcement, in that sense, is set to take place roughly around the next couple of years, between now and the next couple of years of your time. And that this particular event is going to lead into the idea of the climax, representing moving out of a span of change and coming much more into a state of renewal. It is much more in the idea of a type of revealing, a type of exposure. It could happen this year. It could happen next year. We really cannot give you a date on that, but it is approaching very, very soon. And that representing this event, this climactic event, is all part of a multitude of different events that's leading this one into what you would term as the finale. We would refer to this as the finale event. But it's not the big event where no other events are going to happen after that. Basically, what we're saying is that it's an event that is ending a particular cycle of a sequence of events that represented an old dominion-based rule, and that it's leading into something new. It's leading into something much more expansive. Now, other people may take it in different context. It may represent the idea of someone who may be very afraid of what's taking place relating to the finale event. Not everyone is going to see it in its light. Some may still see it as something horrifying, something in that sense that's a setback, because there's going to lead into the idea of implosion. Implosion is going to be a catalyst relating to the finale event. It's an implosive event, and many might be scared of it. But when you really look at the heart of the event, of this finale event, it's leading you into something of renewal, because it does represent implosion and it does represent collapse. We will repeat that again. It represents implosion and it represents collapse. It is the infrastructure taking down. It is the idea that through this implosion, through this collapse, everything that represents the old will now start to move itself out of the picture more, so that new can be born. Very much like what Brad shared is the idea of overhaul. The only thing that's collapsing is representing the nature of the old rule. And that is the defining time, approximately, like we said, it could happen this year, could happen next year, could start around the beginning time of 2025. But nonetheless, all of these sequences of events are still taking place, like what you have been witnessing, especially the past few years of your time, since 2016. Where you're moving much more into the idea of these sequences of events like an orchestra, where it's leading into the grand finale. And the grand finale, again, represents implosion and collapse of an old system. It is the idea of a takedown. And it is the idea that some, or we would say many, may actually be quite afraid of, because they're still very much attached to the old system. And they're not letting themselves align to the new that can be birthed through this event, through the finale event. So yes, it is looking to come together. It is still on schedule, we will say, but we are not here to give you a date. The closest we can say is between your year of 2023 to early point of 2025, to where that will lead into the span of renewal, as we have shared previously in times past. So, We really can't spoil this event for you. We're only giving you the shell representing its nature of implosion and of collapse. And that's what's happening. It's a demolition. It's a complete and total downfall of the old. And there are repercussive events that lead into the finale. That's what's taking place between 2023 and early 2025. That's what we can share with you at this time pertaining to the finale event. Sequences of events leading up into the culmination. We thank you very much for your question. Goodbye for now. Okay, great. Well, there we go. There's the answer to your question there, Eve, regarding the event. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that that is the only event, okay, but that's basically the event or culminating event that is going to take us out of the span of change and bring us into the span of renewal, as Adronis was sharing. Okay, so that's what can be shared regarding that right now. All right, let's go ahead and move down the list here a bit more. Okay. Okay. Okay, here's one from Azarine10. Azarine says, "Hi Brad, is the so-called UFO phenomenon, skyfish or sky rod, real?" Okay, I think I know what you're talking about, is regarding the idea of rods, okay, where people are basically talking about almost like interdimensional beings, where they look like these very long rods, and some of them are caught on camera all together very, very quickly. There's been giant rods in that particular way. Right, I have talked about this in the past as well too. I think it was through an Adronis communication. Right, but why don't we take a look at the cards here first, and basically just asking the question here. Basically, it's just the idea of it's real. Can we validate that the idea of the rods is a real phenomenon? Okay, so let's take a look at that. So the querent would be the idea of the question pertaining to the rods in the situation is if they're real. Okay, so basically we got the Six of Wands representing the idea, and it's interesting too, we got wands or rods right here. And then we got another aspect pertaining to the wands or the rods right here. So that's basically confirming it's very real, okay? But a lot of people don't really understand what they represent in that sense, okay? So they're basically, this is what you would know as another type of creature, another type of species that operates on a very different dimensional plane, and they're intersecting our plane out in and out in that way. They operate on a very, very different frequency. They operate on a very different frequency domain altogether, right? So there's just been an attempt to try and understand if these real, but there's been the big question, right? Trying to look into them, trying to find out exactly where they exist, what is their origin, where do they come from? But they're basically dimensional beings. You could look at it in that way, right? So we're basically not really even able to interact with them because they're not part of this plane. They're part of another plane, and they basically open up and come together in and out, to and fro. It's kind of like a hyper-dimensional entity in that way. So basically in that sense, we got the Two of Swords here. So basically to end the mystery is that yes, they're very much real. They do exist in other dimensions, okay? To communicate with them is something that we just really could not do practically, right? It would need to be something on a much more spiritual level, okay? But yes, the common rods that we would say are very much a real phenomenon, okay? But they're not even really they're not really existing in our plane. They coexist, but they're existing in different dimensions, and they come in and out here and there at times. Kind of like nature orbs or spirit orbs, right? Where you take pictures and you see these orbs flying around, and then there's some of them are here and then they're gone. It's the same with the rods. They too are here and they're gone, right? So they represent a different type of interdimensional or hyperdimensional creature that can be here one second and gone the next. Okay, it's very interesting, but they are basically crossing dimensions to connect with us. All right, thank you for your question. Okay. Okay, this one here is from Celia. Celia says, can you do a reading on the Philippines situation as far as the newly added U.S. military access to our military bases and the general overall situation of the country? Okay, I don't know if we can look into that much with one reading, but we'll see. Well, basically just kind of the idea, the idea of the U.S. military access into military bases. Okay, why don't we take a look at that for the Philippines? Okay. So basically what that symbolizes, what that represents. Okay? Here it comes up. Well, it feels like a cover, for one thing. Okay, it's not exactly what we think it is. This feels like some type of dismantling that's taking place, okay? In front of the scenes, we have a story. We have a stage, right? This is representing the whole U.S. military situation. To me, it feels like they're almost evacuating bases in the Philippines, okay? They're not sticking around. This would represent the idea that they're actually looking to move on past the bases, that they may actually start to empty them out because of new agreements that are being forged here, right? So this is whatever's happening, it's moving in the right direction, okay? And it feels like something is about to be abandoned, okay? So it looks like the bases that they've had in the Philippines is actually some type of, there's some type of show going on here. But it's representing the idea, I feel like these bases are about to be abandoned. They're about to be given up. And it feels like there may even be some off-worlders that may be coming in to use the bases, okay? So we could say that these are going to be counterforce bases, okay? So basically we're seeing kind of as an official capacity that the idea of the old U.S. military is actually going in maybe to finalize something, right? That represents the end of them actually occupying bases in the Philippines. And something new is going to be taking its place, okay? Something that could represent off-world presence, or the idea of, in that sense, of joint operations that are coming together between the people of the Philippines and off-worlders. Okay, these may actually be used for joint operation bases, and that the U.S. military is basically scrapping and filing out of these bases in the Philippines. This is a very good thing. Okay, this is something very, very positive that's actually taking place. Like I said, guys, when you look at these things on the surface, things look bad. When you look at the heart of the event, things start to look really good. Okay? This is why I say you cannot just judge a book by its cover, because that's what we're doing when we look at all these events. Oh, there's this train wreck in Utah, right? Oh, it's horrible. Well, we're looking at the surface, you're not looking at the heart of it. Realize that a lot of that was averted. We're looking at this situation with U.S. military bases starting to abandoning themselves in the Philippines because it's going to be used for something pertaining to joint on-world and off-world operations. Very positive. Okay? Do not judge a book by its cover. And if you just look at these things on the surface, you're not getting the whole scoop of what's happening. It needs to come from in here. Okay? So when you were describing that about U.S. military access, I was getting that feeling, I wonder if they're abandoning ship. They're abandoning ship in the Philippines. That's exactly what's happening. Okay? They're abandoning ship. And those military bases are going to be used for something much more positive. Okay? Joint operations of humans and off-worlders taking place in those bases for the people of the Philippines to maybe to start moving in a whole new direction altogether. That this could also represent the idea of a protection plan for the people of the Philippines. Okay? So altogether, it looks very, very positive. Very good. So thank you, Celia, for your question. Let me just go down a little bit more here. So Fiona just kind of asked this quick question. Hi, Brad. With the banks being overhauled, is it good for humanity? Well, guys, has the Babylonian magic money system, has that been good for humanity? It's been good in a way of what we're learning, what we don't want. Okay? So what's happening is we're starting to move into a direction that is much more compatible with what the collective itself is looking to bring forward onto the planet. pertaining to finances and monetary systems. Okay, so it's moving in a larger direction. Is it the bulletproof, ironclad idea? No, but it's just taking a step up into a state of evolution, right? It's humanity moving up into the next rung of the ladder. So that's what's taking place. So it's suitable for the evolutionary process of the planet. That's the best way I could put it right now in regards to financial and monetary systems, right? That's basically the best answer I can give. Some people don't want to use money at all, and they may not want to be a part of it, and they don't have to. But nonetheless, this is moving into something of a much more larger tier for the planet, for those who are relying upon the idea of funds, and that it's going to move into something better. Not perfect, but something of an improvement. And that's what's taking place. It's just the next rung of the ladder. Okay? Thank you. Mark asks the question, and thank you for your donation, Mark. Hi, Brad. What practices would you feel are helpful with increasing self-worth in those watching who have had traumas, emotional childhood issues? Many have created poor relationships or rejection. Mark, I'm going to assume that you're new to my channel. Okay? If you're new to my channel, I'd like you to go to my playlists on my YouTube channel, because I got quite a few free healing practices that I've basically been promoting every single week when I do these webcasts. Okay? Number 1, the release ball method. I'm going to be doing a new video for the release ball method this week as well too. A third one. Okay? That's in a playlist. The release ball method, that works together in healing your traumas all together, and it works profoundly, and it's very, very simple. Okay? Second one is the prana transmission technique. That is also on my YouTube channel. There's several videos there. There's 4 videos there that you can also work with. Prana transmission technique also helps with that. Third one is cord removal healing. There's 10 videos worth of that in the playlists. Okay, and that's helping to cut cords. Okay, the BCR technique, there's over 30 videos with that through the BCR technique, breathwork, calmness, reinforcement. Okay, all of these ones that I've mentioned are just some of the free healing techniques that I'm giving you guys, that if you commit to it and you start working with it, you're going to start healing all your traumas, right? There's a video I did not too long ago about how you are able to heal your traumas in no time, and it's all going back into childhood. Okay, your childhood is basically the anchor points where you've been living in the past. People who are hurt are stuck in the past. Okay, they are trapped inside the ball of memory, because all the past represents is thought. It's thought, it's memory, it's time. It's the same thing. And they're kept inside a bubble, which means a person who has had a trauma when they were 10 years old is basically still living that trauma as a 10-year-old. They're 35 years old right now, and they're still living in that bubble as a 10-year-old because they have not allowed themselves to completely transition out of that event. That whole trauma has been surrounding their entire world, representing sabotage, right? Coming into a separate self-consciousness and worrying and despairing about everything that represents that trauma, because there's only 4 traumas in men: abandonment, rejection, abuse, addiction. Addiction/escape. Okay? That's really the 4 traumas. And when you go into them and you start clearing them out, because a lot of them seed right into your younger years, where we're traumatized at a young age, and we just start fermenting that trauma, and it gets bigger and bigger and more expansive. That's why things start to feel like it's getting worse in life, because you have not resolved your past. You're constantly living in all these bubbles. You go from one bubble to another bubble, from another bubble to another bubble, from another bubble to another bubble. And all you're doing is you're seeing yourself identifying with your traumas because you feel impaired by your own emotions and mentalities. And that's why you repeat this, because you have an identity to survival. You're afraid to die. Okay? And that's really what the survival program is all about. It's a fear of death. But it's in that sense not saying, oh, Brad, I don't really care if I pass away from the body. No, that's not the death I'm talking about. Death I'm talking about is what happens if you lose all your money? What happens if you lose your house? What happens if you lose your family? What happens if all of your material possessions like that is gone? Brad, I would be so distraught I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Exactly. And those are the bubbles you're living in. And that's your survival program. And the only way you're going to be completely free from that is when you learn to let go of all those things, right? When you're completely at peace with everything that's been causing you trauma, you will not have any more trauma, right? You have no problem being completely free and at peace with everything you have and everyone that's a part of your life. And when you're there, that's where you're free. That's where traumas end. And now you're living in peace. Now you're living in love. Now you're living in harmony. It's like all this here around me that I have right now. It's great and it serves. But if there was ever a point where I needed to give it all up, go ahead, take it away. Right? Because the true happiness is within. Right? That's the whole idea, is knowing that you're free, that there's nothing on this earth that binds you. You are bound to nothing on this earth. You love the earth and you love everyone and everything on the earth, but there's nothing here that's attaching you to it. You're not in a shackle. Okay? And as long as we're in a shackle, that's what's creating the traumatization. And we need to go into our youth, because our youth is what's holding these traumas together. That's what's causing us to bounce into all of these balls of trauma, causing you to worry and be concerned and identifying and attaching to everything because you're afraid to die. You're afraid to lose everything, and that's a death. You're afraid that everything's going to be taken away from you, and that's a death. You're afraid you're going to lose family, and that's a death. You're afraid you're going to lose your possessions, and that's a death. You're afraid you're going to lose your bank account, and that's a death. You're afraid you're going to lose your house, and that's a death. Death, 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 death. That's what you're afraid of. You're afraid to die. Okay? And that's the survival program. And that's what we're clearing out. Okay? Making peace with everything in your life. That's how you go free. And the prana transmission technique, the release ball method, the BCR technique, the cord removal healing, all function as tools to helping you liberate yourself from those things. So go to my website, or go to my YouTube channel, under my playlists, take a look at the ones I've suggested. Start going to work. Commit to it. Make it more important than anything. And you're going to see yourself get liberated. Okay? Thank you, Mark, for your question. Okay. Okay. So just give me a moment here, guys. I think we're just going to take one or two more questions and we're going to wrap up. So let's see what good questions will come through here. Okay, so one or two more. Let's see here. Okay, this one here is from Claudia. Claudia says, Brad, what is going on with the terrible rains in the coast of Peru that is causing terrible floods? Okay. Well, remember, guys, before I look into the cards with this, remember what I've talked about with weather manipulation technology? A lot of that is caused by artificiality. It's man-made technology. Okay. But we'll take a look at that in regards to the terrible rains on the coast of Peru that is causing terrible floods. Okay. So what's going on with that? So the floods in Peru, what is the cause behind that? Okay, we'll look into that. Okay, so the feeling I'm getting here represents something that represents, this is again representing the Peru itself. The floods that are coming together represent the lovers. So there's definitely a flushing away that's happening here, right? So my feeling is that there's a sweeping away, I think, of old cabal presence that may be on Peru. Like I said, it does feel like it's winter warfare, okay? The past here, representing that this is something that was orchestrated, this is something that was taking place. Floods in that sense, or a lot of the weather manipulation that's coming together, it's feeling like it's trying to rid Peru of old forces that are not harmonious with that place whatsoever, okay? It feels like a flushing away that's taking place. So a lot of floods in that way. My feeling is that something's being drowned out. Maybe it's more underground bases again we could look at. But whatever is happening in the near future, things are going to be brought into clarity. There's going to be a positive that comes from this flooding, right? It may also represent the idea of some form of stability that's coming together. We may also be looking into, okay, I think I'm getting the idea. Basically, I think the idea of Peru may have been under the target of basically having certain forms of earth changes taking place around Peru, specifically certain areas of earthquakes. And that there may be the idea of working with these floods that are basically trying to bring more water into these underground caverns that would fill it up, that would prevent any particular forms of tectonic shifts from happening around the area of Peru. So it's all an attempt to foil agenda-based plans that a lot of the Dark Cabal had, basically trying to rock Peru and shake them up to cause disasters, because Peru is looking to completely phase out a lot of the Dark Cabal presence within them as well too. Okay, so in that sense, the alliances, counterforces, are basically creating these particular forms of weather modifications taking place that are going to start working and filling up underground vaults and caverns to prevent any other particular type of modification technology to shake the bedrock of Peru, because it's on the coasts. Okay? And basically when you have them on the coast, they are very susceptible to earthquake activity unless there's particular forms of rushing of the floods, rushing of the waters that can actually go in and fill up the underground caverns, fill in them with water, so that there's actually cushions taking place to prevent any form of earthquake activity to which the cabals were planning to do for Peru. It was all part and parcel of foiling a particular plan to shake the bedrock of Peru, because Peru was being targeted for major earthquake activity. Okay? That's the feeling I'm getting. So there's a rebalancing here. And of course we have the waves in the background, okay, the floods, helping to balance the land, helping to balance that particular space, helping to balance Peru, so that it would not be under the susceptibility of earthquake activity. And that's what the work is doing right now. This is intentional, but it is actually a good thing. Okay. Right now, of course, there's a lot of flooding going on, which is not always a good thing, but they're using it in much more to a higher purpose that's basically trying to create a cushion, a buffer. So basically, as these underground vaults and caverns come in and water starts filling it up, you have a cushion, you have a buffer there that will prevent certain forms of earthquake activity coming together to represent the idea of intense earthquake activity, because they were planning to rock Peru like crazy. Peru was basically cited as having a major earthquake was looking to happen there. Now that this is happening, that's going to be prevented. Okay? So that's what's taking place. A lot of these things are basically just plans, counterforce plans, that are preventing Peru from going into massive amount of destruction, which would represent a very high magnitude earthquake. And that's basically looking to be prevented. Okay? If you actually look around some of these maps, these earthquake maps around Peru, usually around the South America. Let's see if I can pull one of them up here. See if I can find it here. I had an old one here. Yeah, here we go. Seismic monitor. Okay, so basically we can see that usually around Brazil, usually around Peru, it's kind of what we would call the Ring of Fire. I'm basically just looking into the nature of South America altogether, right? But we basically have what's known as the Ring of Fire activity. And basically what they're attempting to do is seal up a lot of that Ring of Fire activity by basically bringing in floods, okay? And floods in that sense would go into these caverns and underground vaults and basically act as buffers and try to prevent any forms of major earthquakes happening around these territories. So that's what's been taking place regarding Peru, okay? So guys, we're out of time for today. Thank you all for your questions. I really appreciate it. You had some really great questions on today. I will be back tomorrow with New Earth TV Live at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do another Earth meditation. We're going to do some distance healing, and we're going to do some more Q&A tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. Okay, so remember, go to the bottom of the video description. You'll find the link to the Adronis event taking place tomorrow. Let me just pull up the screen again. They're not taking place tomorrow. Taking place on Sunday, March 19th, 11 a.m. Pacific. You'll find the link in the video description where you can sign up for registration. If you've already signed up in the past, that link is still good because it is concurrent every 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that on Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific. My friend Killian will be there as well too to moderate. He's done a really great job, and I'm looking forward to your questions regarding that as well too. So guys, thank you so much. I know we have another donation. Guys, we're out of time. I have to go. Okay. So Eddie, what I would suggest is just save your question for tomorrow if you want. Eddie, you can even send me an email. Just go to newearthteachings.com, go to the contact page, send me that question if you want. I'll be happy to answer it in my own time when I have a time to do it. But I do have to go. We're out of time. And I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, And I'll see you guys then for New Earth TV Live. Take care, everybody. Om Shanti 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 Namaskar, and may it be well with you. Goodbye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to New Earth Teachings on YouTube. Don't forget to check out our websites, newearthteachings.com, where you can do private sessions with me, and also AetherX.co. And through AetherX, you'll be able to pick up your Healing Code Cards body deck, your mind deck, and your energy deck through AetherX. You will also be able to pick up the Etherbed kit. That is also on AetherX as well. Not to mention that you'll also be able to pick up some apparel and accessories that is also available on AetherX. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one. Om Shanti 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 Namaskar, and may it be well with you.